and welcome back to your weekly PlayStation podcast, Talking the PS, where every week here on youtube.com/Helix Plays Games, we round up all the PlayStation and gaming goodness for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on YouTube and up there in the digital clouds on your podcast preference of choice. You're joining the magic duo this evening, this morning, whenever you listen to this show. Richie, the man of many pixels, the man of very weak-willed financial power. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I am. I'm quite weak-willed. I did it to myself, to be fair.
You did it to yourself. And obviously, Rob's not with us today. He's moving house or flat, accordingly, so he won't be with us. He's got basically to pack up all his computer setup and mics and everything and lighting and get that all shipped across to his new location, which will remain undisclosed because, of course, we're here to talk about PlayStation, Richie. It's been a busy week in PlayStation news, and boy, do we have a great show lined up for you. We're going to be talking about the upcoming PlayStation Showcase, with apparently Konami rocking up with some interesting things, your PlayStation Plus games for the month of May, Resident Evil, a new entry in the series, long rumoured, and we've got plenty of details that have reportedly been leaked about that one, updates on Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and a couple of new games too. But before we do get into all of it, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and ring that bell if you're watching along on YouTube so you're kept in the loop with all the great content we do here at Helix Plays Games. And if you are listening along on podcast services, we would appreciate you rating us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whichever rating system your audio services have available. Richie, just before we get into the bulk of the show, I want to say congratulations to my sister for having a baby, so I'm an uncle now officially. So I thought I want it on record somewhere. It's a bit of odd news to drop in, but I thought, you know what, there's no real place in the show, but I want it on record. So I'm an uncle for the first time, so that's what's going on in my life right now.
Welcome to the Uncle Club. You can join me and Rob in it now.
Yeah, I can. Is Rob an uncle? Yeah, I guess he is.
Yeah. Pass your congratulations on to your sister.
I certainly will. Name and details also will remain undisclosed. But we're here to talk about video games, so let's get into the thick of it with, of course, what we usually start off all of our shows with, what we've been playing. And I think both you and me are playing two very different games right now. As I mentioned at the start of the show, you and your weak will, my friend, you said for several weeks now, I'm saving for a holiday. I've got a short holiday to coming up in June, which we still need.
I'm gone for almost a fortnight.
Short distance until we get there. Obviously long distance because you're traveling many miles.
I'm going to literally a different continent.
Indeed.
I'm visiting two different countries.
However, what did you go and do? What did you go and do this week? You got caught in with the hype train.
Yeah, I got caught up in the hype train. So last weekend after the shows, I jumped into Breath of the Wild because I think I was talking last week, either on XPass or talking to PS, how I'm usually straying towards more negative when I talk about Breath of the Wild than I actually am with that game, because I think because there's so many critics just act as if it is the best game to ever create, and I was like, it's very good. And I was like, you know what? I need to go back in. I need to kind of reset my view on the game of don't dive back in and go, what is about that game? Why do I have over 100 hours in that game?
Mm-hmm.
When my memories of it is kind of not as fond of as it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, this game's amazing. There is elements of the game that I'm not overly fond on, things like the weapon durability and stuff.
Yeah, I hated that.
On about that. But I think sometimes my memory got fixated on them aspects and forgot about how fun the game is. So I played that a bit. And then I jumped into a different Zelda game, also on the Switch, Link's Awakening, which is one of my favorite Zelda games of all time.
Mm-hmm.
One part of the purpose for switching Zelda games was that game plays very differently. For maybe this will scratch the Zelda itch that I've suddenly occurred. And then I won't buy Tears of the Kingdom.
And instead of satiating the itch.
That didn't work. So then I played Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Right, you've gone on quite a bit of an
adventure.
Yeah,
I've gone on a bit of journey. So Final Fantasy VII Remake, that came about because last weekend when we were actually at yours, I was talking to a friend of ours who's just bought a PS5.
Mm-hmm.
So he was talking about looking forward to playing into that. I was like, with Rebirth coming out this year, it's always been on my list to replay this year. So I thought, now's the time. I'm taking a break from Octopath. This might be the time to fill. And then the hype got me. The reviews dropped, and of Tears of the Kingdom, the Metacritic scores 97 is
it's too good to ignore.
it's too good to ignore. It's like, it's 50 quid. I'm going to buy this game regardless. It's not going to. Switch games don't depreciate
Yeah,
like other
that is a
titles.
fair point. Yeah.
In 2 years' time, this is still going to be 50 quid.
Yeah, this is no
So
Ubisoft
it's
title
like,
that's going to be on sale in a week's time or something.
yeah, it's one of them. So it's like, does it matter whether I buy it now or buy it later in the summer after I get back from a holiday? I've got a credit card. Just do it.
You are a responsible adult in some way, shape, or form, then it would appear. So, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, obviously, this is a PlayStation podcast, so we won't linger too long on it. But the first look is up on the channel. It's the first Nintendo live stream we've ever done. So, obviously, we can pretty much do anything. We've played PC games this year. We've got Nintendo on the go. We've got plans for more retro games. So, if you do like that kind of content, go check out Richie's first look. Keep it locked, of course, to the channel for future first looks and content that we do. But first overall brief impressions then to keep it on PlayStation track.
So I fell in love so quickly as someone who's played like tons of Zelda games. Like a lot of the stuff you see in the trailers actually is literally the prologue to the game. It happened almost immediately. The whole like Zelda and Link underground going through like these ruins and finding out, exploring them, and then finding like Ganondorf, like all like shrinkled up mess, and then him coming back to life. That happens within the first 20 minutes of the game.
Is that a spoiler?
It's in the trailer. It's in the reveal trailer that happened. It's like,
right.
So I think anything that happens in the first hour of a game can't really be considered a spoiler, because otherwise you'd never be able to talk about anything that happens in the game. It's like,
you can jump, you can fly.
Yeah, I mean,
all right. So how many hours have you put in total then? As of time
about 4.5. Literally, I played about half an hour earlier this morning. Beyond that, everything I've played was streamed.
Well, quite frankly, I'm disappointed you've not finished it yet, because the speedrunners who are already clocking in like 90 plus 4 minutes. So don't enjoy the game, just power through to completion.
I think it was Chris Scott, one of our Helix Heroes, brought this up during my live streams. Like, and my immediate reaction is, I'm all for speedruns. I think it's quite a cool thing to do, a way of extending, like, getting more out of a game. But don't you want to enjoy the game at a reason, like, as it's intended first?
Yeah.
The story is like, people fall in love with Zelda, not necessarily because of the mechanics, but because of exploring that world and the lore that goes into it. Which is why that opening half hour of the game is so awesome, because it makes so many references to other games and sets up the narrative for the game that you're going to explore. And like the moment's like, yep, I'm in. Like, straight up want to know what this is going on here.
So how many hours do you think you're going to sink into this game then?
Oh, I don't know. It could be anywhere between 60 to over 100. And it's rumored to be significantly bigger than Breath of the Wild.
So you're saying your Nintendo Switch is going to suck the life force out of you for the next 100 odd hours, do you think?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we'll no doubt keep tabs on that.
I wouldn't be surprised if I'm still playing this on the plane to Montreal.
No doubt. Well, I mean, you can't be playing your PlayStation 5 up there in the air. So
yes, I can.
Linking things
back, play, damn it.
Linking things back to PlayStation 5, you mentioned there about resetting the character. And one of the games, well, the only game I've been playing this past week is Jedi Survivor, where they don't do that. You actually start with your full suite of powers pretty much from the first game. And I'm a lot deeper into it now. I've had a whole extra week of chipping away at my 2-hour nighttime baby watch segments, I guess I get. And it's getting good, Richie. It's getting good. I feel like I'm past everyone said about a third into it. Like, the story ticks away nicely, but then it really like amps up. And there's some set pieces that are of maybe like Uncharted levels. There's some characters from universe that are very interesting to link in. And I'm having one hell of a time just running around being a Jedi, doing my puzzle solving, Metroidvania style exploration. And this game is one hell of a Star Wars game. I'll just say that. If Rob was on,
are cool, aren't
they really are. It's such a good year. Like, I had a great time with Hogwarts Legacy. Now everyone's flipping out over Zelda. Star Wars Jedi Survivor is just epic. And we're only in May.
And there's more to come.
There is more to come, and that's kind of one of the things I'm excited about in the coming weeks, is that Summer Games Fest is right around the corner, and I feel like we've been so starved of what's on the horizon for video games, and I was looking at the Summer Games Fest kind of list of partners that Jeff Keighley tweeted out this week, and it just looks like I was looking at our calendar actually thinking about how we're going to schedule our coverage, and you've basically got like Summer Games Fest kicks off, and then Xbox Showcase on the Sunday. Then on the Monday, there's the Ubisoft Forward, and there's a gap on the Friday or the Saturday, which I feel like is prime for PlayStation Showcase time. And if we just get that, that means we're essentially going to have about 4 days over a long, long weekend of just new trailers, new gameplay, new titles, new IP, all like the revelry that we enjoy and seeing what our beloved franchises and platforms have on the table for like the years and months to come. And I cannot wait. Just keep it locked to the channel so you're kept in the loop with all that content when it does kick off. Just like every week we do a live stream. This upcoming Wednesday, we are planning on doing a Amazon Luna stream. We're going to be playing some Fortnite. As I said last week, I think I haven't played Fortnite since it launched on the Switch. So I've got some practicing to do. But we are here to talk about PlayStation. This is a predominantly PlayStation podcast, even though one of the biggest games of the year, if not of all time, has just launched. We're obviously going to dabble in that. So play whatever makes you the happiest, folks. And Richie, in Rob's absence, if you could introduce us to the motor car passing by, so he's muted his microphone, the
properly prepared PlayStation perusing points, aka
the news. That is one hell of a exhaust that guy's got on his car.
Yeah.
Wonder if he's compensating for something. You be the judge in the comments below. Our news, of course, is brought to you by our Helix Heroes, the wonderful, fantastic folks who support the channel that extra little bit more, just like you can, by clicking join on the link below in the video on YouTube. And from as little as 99p, you get this show early. You could get Amazon's Luna Listening podcast early. You could get free content, stickers, badges next to your name, and a couple of videos that are kept exclusive for members out there. We do have some new members showed up. They're on the list on the screen now because I forgot to add them to the doc. There were a couple of people rejoining us, Richie. They left us.
Awesome.
They left us wallowing in our YouTube hole, and then they came back. Welcome back, of course. You're all Helix Heroes to us, whether you're a subscriber, you're a member, or you're just watching our content or checking it out for the first time. Everyone's welcome here. So, Richie, story number 1, we had our PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium game catalog update for the month of May. This is where PlayStation, of course, dabble in about halfway through the month usually and give us some extra games. Let's just go through them as a list, and then we'll talk about our favourites and pluck out those top ones. Kicking things off, we've got Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, the PlayStation 5 exclusive. Blast your way through an interdimensional adventure. Go dimension hopping with Ratchet & Clank as they take on an evil emperor from another reality. Jump between action-packed worlds and beyond at mind-blowing speeds, complete with dazzling visuals and an insane arsenal of weapons as the intergalactic adventure blasts onto the PlayStation 5 console. Followed by Humanity, which is a day-and-date launch game on PS4 and PS5. You are Shiba Inu, charged with commanding massive marching crowds to jump, turn, push, float, shoot, and climb their way to salvation. It's basically Lemmings with humans, it looks like. Guide the masses through 90-plus stages filled with obstacles, enemies, puzzles, unlockable skills, and wild boss fights in a narrative campaign, or browse a wide array of user-made levels, craft via super easy-to-use in-game stage creator. Humanity also includes PSVR and VR2 support, so this is quite possibly the first PSVR 2 game to launch into PlayStation Plus, so they are dabbling in that. We have Watch Dogs Legion coming to PS4 and PS5, Ubisoft's massive open-world urban adventure game featuring London's many iconic landmarks and fun activities on the side as you build up the resistance from virtually anyone you see, hack, infiltrate, and fight to take back the city during its downfall. This was funny, this game, because it launched during Brexit and it felt like it was like a dystopian reality that could actually happen. Dishonored 2.
And then it did.
Dishonored 2, of course, PS4, the game from the makers of Redfall. Reprise your role as a supernatural assassin in Dishonored 2. Play your way into a world where mysticism and industry collide. Will you choose to play as the Empress or Royal Protector? Make your way through the game unseen, stealth, make use of the brutal combat system, or blend of both. How will you combine your character's unique set of weapons? We've also got Dishonored Death of the Outsider, Sakuna of Rice and Ruin. I'm getting a bit brief now because I don't want to read into all of them. Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, Rise of the Tomb Raider 20th Celebration, Shadow of the Tomb Raider on PS4 as well. They're all coming on PS4, which is a great collection of games. It's pretty much the Survivor trilogy you're getting in there. Experience Lara's chapters and her origins all the way through to the end and the Mayan apocalypse. Tomb Raider games out there. Bus Simulator 21, The Evil Within 2, Wolfenstein Youngblood, Thymesia? How would you say that? Thymesia?
Thymesia? for me this year.
That game on PS5, Rain World on PS4, Lake, which we have a first look up on the channel on PS4,
We do.
Conan Exiles, Rune Factory 4 Special, never heard of it, Story of Seasons, Friends of Mineral Town on PS4, Soundfall, only in certain regions, and our PlayStation classics to bring up the end, Siphon Filter Logan's Shadow on PS4, PS5, Blade Dancer Lineage of Light, Pursuit Force, Ghostbusters the video game remastered on PS4, brings us to an end of our monthly catalogue, of course. These aren't the games that you claim and keep forever. They're part of the ongoing rotation of catalogue games. Richie, one hell of a game dump to be added into this month. And what are your overall thoughts? Pick out some of your favourites.
Overall thoughts, I think this is a massive addition to the library. And honestly, I think it's a really, on general balance, it's a good one. There's no, for me, absolute must-play title, because even the ones that I think in the past would have been, they're now getting on a bit. Like, I think the pick of the bunch for me has to be the Tomb Raider trilogy. But how many times does this Tomb Raider trilogy want to come to free-to-play services? Well,
it's doing the rounds.
Subscription services. We've had them on Stadia Pro. We've had them on Game Pass. We've had them on PlayStation Plus before. I'm pretty sure I have all these games already on PlayStation Plus. But they are amazing games. So, yeah, I mean, there's an entire full playthrough of the first Tomb Raider on the channel. Played first ever full playthrough as well, actually, back in the Stadia days. So let's not dwell on Tomb Raider, because by now I think everyone knows what Tomb Raider is and knows that you should play it.
Yeah. If you are out there enjoying Jedi Survivor, there are big chunks of that. I've actually thought just last night when I was playing, actually shares a lot of DNA with Tomb Raider. Like a lot of the traversal stuff, the climbing and the climbing up the side of things. Like I know Lara has like a piton that she uses to climb, and the throwing yourself across from. Obviously, you've got force powers, so it's a little bit different. But the overall mechanics of the way the levels are laid out, and certain parts are locked off to you Metroidvania style until like you unlock certain weapons and gadgets later on. It did make me think like, God, I really love the Tomb Raider games, and it just sucks that we have to wait so long for a fourth entry in this series.
I kind of think the Tomb Raider Definitive Edition game is actually a very important game, video game history, in a kind of quiet way. I think it took kind of the set piece action story elements of something like an Uncharted, but then evolved it into in a different way. So it's not just an Uncharted clone, even though Uncharted is technically a Tomb Raider clone. It kind of evolved it and made it a little bit, the world a bit more open, a bit more Metroidvania, actually, where once you get certain abilities, you can unlock other parts of the map to progress the story. And so when you're talking about things like Jedi Survivor, yeah, there's definitely like elements in there. It's like
there's that DNA, so, yeah. And they do it really, really well. But yeah, you're completely right. The trilogy is doing the rounds, but if you've never played them before and you've got PlayStation Plus Extra Premium, like that's a hell of a 3 games to enjoy and work your way through, especially if you are a fan of like the Uncharted games or Jedi Survivor. Any other top picks out of this list for you in particular?
I'd say Lake is a good game. It's quite a very casual zen kind of, you know what, I just want to chill out on a Saturday afternoon for an hour or two and just deliver some parcels around like this beautiful watercolor scenery. It's like, it is kind of that kind of in that relaxing style game where like there's a lot of love to enjoy to be fun to be had there if you're into something just a bit more casual, a bit more zen.
Nice bit of a palate cleanser maybe between big tiles. Absolutely. For me, it's got to be Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Obviously, PlayStation 5 exclusive, uses full use of the haptic feedbacks on the DualSense controller. Visually, it's one of the best looking games on the platform. Insomniac just absolutely smashing it out the park between Marvel games. They just happen to put out another fantastic, gorgeous game. Great story. Get to play as multiple characters in this one. You don't just play as Ratchet and Clank. You've got Rivet and I always forget the name of her little robot. But yeah, really fun story. Quite whimsical. It's very much just you are playing a Pixar movie, if all things said and done. Watch Dogs Legion, obviously the end of the Watch Dogs trilogy. It's safe to say we're probably not going to see anything more from Watch Dogs and Ubisoft anytime soon.
I think they just don't know what Watch Dogs needs to be.
No, they've had 3 cracks at it, and I think each time they've struggled with finding an identity for what this game is, other than it just being a copy and paste of a Ubisoft game, essentially. It is the most Ubisoft of Ubisoft games in a way.
But there's a cool concept to be had there. I think they should have it. Personally, I do think Ubisoft should have another crack at the whip. just find, because like this kind of like stealth action, cyber tech kind of in modern day hacking sort of stuff. This is a cool game to be had and a cool story to be had. They just need to spend the time, I think, and give it to someone who, like a team that sees it as a passion project, who can kind of has a really clear vision. Where I think with Legion, they dispense stuff like a protagonist in favor of what basically
Create your
possessing,
own, yeah.
create your own, and like I think one of the criticisms, I just don't think it'll work because no one, when none of the characters feel meaningful, you don't get attached to any of them. I think that was the problem. Also, I think the time when it came out didn't come out at the same time as Valhalla and
Immortals.
Immortals Phoenix Rising, so I think it was overshadowed a bit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I had more fun playing Immortals than I did Watch Dogs. And if you were to play a Watch Dogs game, I've got the platinum in all three of them trophies, and I would recommend just play number 2. It's good. It's in California, and again, I love London as much as the next guy, but I had way more fun driving around hacking things in California. You had a protagonist, you had a fun story to go with it. Sunnier environment. Again, I think we said on last week's show, games that just happen to be in nice, warm, sunny climates seem to fare better, like Dead Island and Far Cry, but you put them somewhere dank, cold, and rainy, and there is something psychologically, I think, that plays on you.
I think I'd almost want to see them try and link this into the Assassin's Creed franchise, where the Assassin's Creed is getting focused more on the historical stuff and less on the modern stuff. You could Watch Dogs could be the equivalent of an Assassin's Creed game, but set in modern times.
Yeah.
So rather than scaling up buildings and using hidden blades to assassinate people, you're using tech and like hacking your way into enemy bases to like.
I mean, it pretty much is. Like, Abstergo exists within Watch Dogs, and you can go there. There's a couple of missions there, but yeah, I do feel like they'll probably put that to one side for now. A couple of good gets, of course, from the Bethesda teams. We've got Wolfenstein Games in there, and of course the aforementioned
ZeniMax,
Dishonored.
not Bethesda. I got told off for that before. Arcane is under ZeniMax, not Bethesda. Bethesda is also under ZeniMax.
Is Wolfenstein not?
Wolfenstein
Machine Games?
is Machine Games, which is, I don't know whether on the Bethesda, but ZeniMax is the parent company.
Either way, they're owned by Xbox now. So from Xbox Studios, Wolfenstein, Youngblood, and Dishonored, and Evil Within 2.
It's Microsoft, Xbox, ZeniMax, then what happens underneath.
Absolutely. A couple of the smaller games pay no interest to. Siphon Filter, Logan Shadow, one of the classics as well, coming out. Never played it myself, but I know it gets a lot of love for being one of the good old ones. And shout out to Ghostbusters, the video game remastered. As a huge Ghostbusters fan, this is essentially the third movie with full voice cast: Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, Ernie Hudson, all reprising their roles. It's essentially it's telling the story Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd wanted to tell, but they can never get off the ground in the movie world, so they made a game of it instead. And it goes back into the first and second movie with some cool references, and yeah, it's a fantastic fun third-person action game. It got remastered obviously a few years back. And yeah, I also have the Platinum Trophy in that one. So good. Well, not a good list for Chris, I guess, because I've already played a lot of these games to completion. But one hell of a list. And PlayStation Plus, for all its sins, it seems to be having a good one in comparison to the Game Pass conversation we usually have. Subscription models, like, we criticize PlayStation Plus for shortcomings, but when it's throwing big AAA titles at you like this on a constant basis, and then dabbling it with a couple of first party like Ratchet and Clank isn't that old still, and they're giving it away for free essentially.
Yeah, I see this as a library filler month where here's some awesome games that if you've missed them, now is the opportunity to go back and play, rather than here's your big AAA. It's not like when we're looking forward to like things like Starfield on Game Pass, we're going, right, this is the game that needs to sell you on Xbox. This is going, hey, if you miss these games, here you go.
Check them out.
They're all high quality games, some of them a bit older.
Yeah.
Ratchet and Clank is probably the newest, I think, of the lot.
I mean, technically, Humanity is day one release this month, so it's not out yet.
Yeah, but it's like it's kind of like, here's some cool games, add to your library. So if you need something,
there's plenty to choose from.
And to be fair, this month, does PlayStation want to be dropping like a major AAA title on Game Pass when with Zelda and Fallen Order, and then we've got Final Fantasy 16 round the corner. Hogwarts Legacy is still coming out on every platform.
Just delayed on Switch back to November. I don't know if you saw
Switch,
that.
It's just dropped on PS4 and Xbox One. It's like,
get out your own way, essentially.
Yeah,
which they're doing a good job.
He's a trio of Tomb Raider games. He's Ratchet and Clank. He's some love from Ubisoft and Bethesda. Have fun, guys.
Absolutely. But let's pivot away from PlayStation Plus then. Cracking month. Let us know in the comments below what your favourite choices are for this month's selection. And let us know if you plan on playing any of them. Moving on, though, we have some Resident Evil news. So we're never too far away from Resident Evil news in the current trend of things, with Capcom having record years. I think this week alone, their fiscal year was made more money than ever before, sold more games than ever before, record profits and all that jazz. And on top of that comes the rumour of Resident Evil 9. Supposedly titled Apocalypse, which they're stretching out this Roman numeral thing as much as they possibly can. They did it with Village quite smartly. They did it with Biohazard quite well too. It's called Apocalypse, Richie, but the I and the X for 9, it doesn't quite spell apocalypse because it's an X and not a Y, but in the logo artwork, they seem to have faded out like the right leg of the X and made it into a Y. And you're kind of looking and go, I can see it's supposed to say apocalypse, but it doesn't. But it's one of them things. So titled Resident Evil Apocalypse is going to be a predecessor to Village, combining the Roman numerals 9 with the name. The last game to star long-term franchise Chris Redfield won't end until its death. Richie is muted, but he's still talking on the video, but he doesn't realise it yet.
Sorry. It's not a predecessor, it's a sequel. It's like its predecessor, Village.
Oh, sorry, I'm misreading that. Yeah, it did seem weird to go back to a game that only came out last year. It's a bit of an odd one. So aside from that, we'll play as franchise long-term lead Chris Redfield, but it won't end with his death. He's alive 16 years later to keep an eye on Rose Winters, which we know from playing Village. It's going to be single.
The last one starring him as well.
It won't be. They won't let him go.
Yeah.
Single player, no co-op, which is probably good for Resident Evil because we all know how well Resident Evil Reverse landed. Remember that, Richie? That delayed add-on for Village that came out with little as much as a whimper. Jill Valentine will also rumoured to be returning and playing a similar role to Ada does in Resident Evil 4. The story will follow Chris as he heads towards back towards Europe right after the end of Resident Evil Village, so we pick up from his story and the continuity of the Ethan Winters saga. The game has been in development for 2 years, apparently. It's using assets from Village and RE4. And Claire Redfield will make a brief appearance. Again, these are all rumours so far, but it seems like quite a detailed, in-depth rumour to know something. Zombies are going to be returning as well. Another castle, which is going to be very reminiscent of Lady Dimitrescu's castle. And the official reveal will be coming around October and November time. So, all in all, Richie, the only thing we don't really know from this leak is it going to be first person or is it going to be third person? What are your takes on these leaked rumours and the name Apocalypse?
So I'm not the biggest Resident Evil fan, so I actually wish Rob was here for this because he'd be more insightful. For me, it seems like a way of tying the Ethan Winters like duology, with Village and Biohazard, into the traditional, the first 4 Resident Evil games.
Yeah, the mainline story.
Which I think is could be really awesome. Mm-hmm. And then if we just assume that Resident Evil 5 and 6 didn't happen,
unless they remake them, because we're hitting that point now where they've done 4 hit was a smash hit, and I think they could go back and tweak 5.
I'm not sure they will, to be honest. I think 5 and 6, from someone who is not a Resident Evil fan, look at them, kind of tie them together as this is where it really fell off a cliff.
Mm-hmm.
And if you take 4, which is kind of probably the pinnacle of the series, and then the reboot stuff with 8 and 7 and 8, you kind of tie these storylines together.
Yeah,
it gives you a nice point to take the series going forward again.
It will be nice to reach 10. Just the X, which they can use very, very easily in the naming convention to be that you're kind of unified, bring them all together moment.
Yeah, I mean, if 9 kind of pretty much rounds out Chris Redfield's arc, because he did appear in Village.
Yeah.
Then it also reintroduces characters like Jill Valentine into the modern story.
Mm-hmm.
We just ignore 5 and 6, pretend they didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
The end of 9, if it ties up everything that was seen from Village and Biohazard and everything we've seen 1, 2, 3, 4, then we could be in a place to really, I do think, we kind of okay, we now reset the kind of the timeline, what we're going to do forward, starting with a Resident Evil 10.
Yeah.
And again, reintroducing zombies, even if they are rumored not to play a huge part, it's kind of drawing in the roots of the franchise.
Yeah.
It could be awesome.
It could be. It's one of those things. I'm excited for it because I thoroughly enjoy it. Like Biohazard was such a smash hit for me. I don't know if it was because we did it on stream and there was just that enjoyment of playing a horror game with friends, so you all get the jump scares together. But it was a genuinely good story, and then I enjoyed playing through Village with you as well. It was just like a shared enjoyment to be found in playing a horror game where I'm not scared shitless on my own.
In a weird way, as someone who isn't really a Resident Evil fan, I'm excited by because this feels like all the moves. If I am right in what I've described based on these rumors, this feels like the exact direction I would take the franchise.
Mm.
Let's kind of tie up loose ends, give us a clean slate going forward. We're back on top with Resident Evil. It's back. It's no longer this diminished IP. It is very much
Oh
back
yeah,
to being a top tier IP. Let's
S tier.
clean up some of the mess that's happened in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Got a good narrative, and the set is the groundwork to take this the series going forward. Also, remake Resident Evil 1. I know they've already remade Resident Evil 1, but do it again.
Yep, absolutely. So that all aside, we'll hopefully hear something in the imminent future by the October-November timeframe. It looks like it's always good to announce things like this around Halloween. You kind of get that little extra bump because everyone's got horror in the air. It seems to be like the season to talk about it. No doubt we'll probably get some content drop off for one of their Resident Evil games. But I'm excited. We'll get Rob's take on it at some point when we maybe have a few more concrete details. We might even see a trailer at Summer Games Fest next month, so we'll have to hold out and find out on that one. But until that time, let's move on to the next ongoing rumour. Speaking of Summer Games Fest, Konami, they're also getting back into the swing of things with Silent Hills 1, 2, 3, FZ, what all the 5, 6 creations they announced a couple months back. However, speculation on social media will have you believe that Sony may have signed a timed console exclusivity agreement with Konami on a trio of titles potentially going to be showcased at the upcoming PlayStation Rumored Showcase. It's all conjecture and rumour at the moment, Rich. I know we don't like to usually talk about that, but there's so many rumours swirling. It almost has to be true because we're hearing it from multiple sources now. These titles include Castlevania, Metal Gear Solid, and Silent Hill. And obviously, legendary games and IP in their own right. We do know the Silent Hill 2 remake was announced by Bloober Team last year, and that's coming to PS5 exclusively and PC for a year. So that could be the first sign that this deal has some kind of gravitas behind it.
I'd say that's probably one of the three.
Yeah,
it feels
completely.
It feels almost a surefire thing for that. Yeah.
So jumping off the back of that then, Metal Gear Solid, the ongoing rumour is that there's a revival being done for Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater because that is chronologically the first one. As much as I would personally prefer them to just make them in the order of release, the rumours seem to be swirling around we're going to get Metal Gear Solid 3 first, and also a Castlevania version of something. We've said, I think, time and time the show, I'd love them to take Castlevania and give it the modernized reboot treatment, almost like God of War-esque, where if you can give me a Castlevania game that's in a Soulsborne-like mantra, possibly take from Elden Ring or whatever you can, give it to Blue Point or something.
It's weird, but because Castlevania is so much an important franchise that it literally makes up half of a genre.
Mm-hmm.
The Vania part of Metroidvania comes from Castlevania.
Yeah. And yet,
but it never. I think it's always struggled. It's one of them games that I think always struggled to make the jump from 2D to 3D.
Absolutely.
It kind of lost its luster in that era. But what could with that IP, how beloved it is, and the lore that goes into it? What could you do with a modern Metroidvania, Soulsborne-esque, almost maybe put some RPG stuff in there? What could a modern Castlevania do? Just reboot the franchise. I would just do it this is a straight up reboot. So it's going to be an origin story for whatever characters you use.
Absolutely.
Alucard or
Richard Belmont is the predominant one, but you're right. The lore is there, the history is there, and we've just praised Tomb Raider and Jedi Survivor and stuff for those type of gameplay mechanics. If you give me, I watched the anime series on Netflix, and it's phenomenal anime. You should really go check it out. If you haven't checked out Castlevania, go do it. It's fantastic. Great voice acting and animation throughout.
Tomb Raider actually, I think, is a perfect example rather than God of War for what I do, where the Tomb Raider reboot kind of drew a line under the original Tomb Raider games when, right, we're going to start from scratch. We are going to tell the story of how Lara Croft becomes the Lara Croft that you know from the earlier games. You could do that with Castlevania. I think that's where I would go. Like, it's just going to be an origin. It's going to be an origin story. We're going to re-establish this world with a new style of gameplay for the modern sensibilities.
Yeah. It could be so fun as well. Like Richard Belmont has weapons for hunting vampires. You have multiple locations spread around the kind of, it's not Middle East, where is it? It's like Eastern European areas.
Transylvania.
I think it is. You have the big castle, so you've got your kind of big finale point to get to. You've got Dracula involved. You've got Alucard as like a possible like alternate like mini boss or like another genre storyline to branch off into. And yeah, just give me those like little like Tomb Raider, give me those little pocket exploration areas that expand and get bigger as my arsenal of weapons gets bigger, new enemy types. Like again, with vampires and like hellhounds and all the creatures that you see in the anime, you've got so many monsters you could fight. He's got a chain that has like a ball of fire on the end, and you could. There's just so many things you could do with it, and I'd hate them to just go, here's another 2D side scroller. It's like, I'm sure that would be great for many people, but it's not quite what I'd love. Like, this could be a whole new franchise and like reboot unto itself. Silent Hill is getting its Silent Hill thing.
As much as I'm not a lover of Soulsborne type games, I think it's crying out for it.
Yeah,
I think it really is. It's like, you take Metroidvania style gameplay as you unlock new weapons and abilities. This helps you unlock different areas of the castle, and then to eventually take down. You could even almost go slightly Breath of the Wild with this, where in Breath of the Wild you can pretty much, once you've completed the Great Plateau, you can pretty much go straight to Hyrule Castle and then defeat Ganon, like straight away. You could do that. Go, you know what? Once you have access to the castle, you can go straight up and fight Dracula if you want.
Funny you should say that, because one of the old, it might be Symphony of the Night, you fight Dracula immediately and you cannot win. Yeah. Like, the whole point of the game is he kills you, and that's what sets up the rest of the game. Is you have to build yourself up.
I would almost do it so, like, if you are good enough, you can win. However, you're not going to realistically. Well, you can do that in Breath of the Wild. You can literally just go straight to Ganondorf and fight him and win.
And we wonder why we've got speedrunners out there.
Yeah, but then you could obviously most people are going to explore the world, explore the castle, get all the gear before going on that challenge. Oh yeah?
Indeed. And Metal Gear Solid.
I want to make Castlevania now.
And then Metal Gear Solid, I think, obviously we don't know whether Konami are going to be involved with Kojima on this one, or it's some kind of like, will they patch their relationship? Who knows? But I'm always down for some Metal Gear Solid content, and it's been a long time coming, because that game is practically unplayable on PlayStation as it stands.
How excited would you be if at like Summer Games Fest, like the Konami section of it, like they show the trailer for like whatever Metal Gear Solid remake they're doing is, and then Kojima walks out on stage? That's
crazy. And Jeff Keighley could do it.
He's not making the game, but he's like an executive producer on the game or something. Like, we've buried the hatchet. I'm working with them. I'm not working for them, sort of thing.
Yeah, 100%. And more Metal Gear Solid, the better. I'd love it for Jeff to get his Game Awards orchestra and come out with a fantastic rendition of the Snake Eater soundtrack, which is the best James Bond soundtrack ever. But it's been in the works for several years now, so I think we're just waiting to kind of see what the hell Konami are doing. Like, get off your pachinko machines and get back to what you do good, which is make video games, or at least outsource your licensing to make video games.
Pachinko machines and Tears of the Kingdom.
Exactly. So, moving on though, one of the next stories of the week is Square Enix are considering new studios and acquiring existing ones. Between the releases of Final Fantasy, Crisis Core, Reunion, Forspoken, and Richie's beloved Octopath Traveler, it's been a busy year for Square Enix. However, the company is hoping to expand still, forming new studios or acquiring new studios. As part of their earnings report this past week, Square Enix is apparently considering creating new studios and taking minority stakes in smaller studios and external development resources, hiring more engineers and developers for not only HD and smart devices, but also content for future cross-platform offerings. Now, the reason I wanted to include this in, Richie, is because what are Square Enix doing? They just sold several studios and IP for literally pennies to the Embracer Group, getting rid of the likes of Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Gex, hashtag save the gecko still, and then they've
IO Interactive.
IO Interactive, yeah.
They got rid of Hitman.
They got rid of Hitman, and then they've earlier this year, they also said the Forspoken studio, Luminous Productions, is going to be absorbed back in to the main fold of Square Enix. Avengers obviously went with Crystal. Why would you do this and then essentially you want to start from the ground up again when you had AAA quality experienced teams already in-house? There's definitely something dodgy going on here, right? Either leadership maybe were hoping to be bought out and then now it isn't going to happen, maybe due to the Xbox CMA shit. And then now we're back at a point where they go, oh, we need to rebuild now. We strip back, now we need to go forward.
I think there's been something you said where I think Square have the kind of the expectations for their more Western style games set wrong. I don't know how they sell in Japan, but they're not. Most of things like Forspoken, Avengers didn't do what they wanted them to do. Hitman never really did the numbers that they were hoping for. And I don't think that was in the West, and it's probably even worse in Japan. So I think it might just be a case of these studios aren't worth it. We're going to double down on what we do best, focus on the more Eastern style games like your JRPGs, like your Final Fantasies, your Octopaths, stuff like that. So maybe they're thinking like, well, get rid of them studios, and now we've got a handful of projects we need to ramp up production on. So we need some new studios. Let's invest in talent that is going to make the games that we know sell well for us. Where I think it comes down to expectations, because I think Hitman sold well, but depending how you set your expectations, it's not selling like a Final Fantasy VII, nowhere near. But generally, it's a beloved franchise that's with the reboot, kind of the World Assassination trilogy, always sold well, got a lot of critical acclaim, but does it do the numbers that Square want? So I think they just kind of jettisoned it. Crystal Dynamics, I think, was a mistake.
Yeah, you're going to get rid of one of them.
Did Tomb Raider sell the way they wanted to? If like maybe the idea from Square was to bring things like Tomb Raider over into Japan, maybe that was the point of setting up and acquiring these studios to begin with. And if that didn't work, they might just be more focused on that Eastern market.
Yeah, it seems. I mean, it's such an odd one because Japan's market, for better or for worse, even though it's the home of many great video games and franchises and studios, it's a small market. It's a small country in comparison to the wider world, and that's why PlayStation's headquarters is now based in the US as opposed to Japan, because and Nintendo's for the big part, because just sheer population numbers and such. But internally, they never seem to be satisfied. That's the problem.
Yeah, but these games that are like don't have always traditionally done well in Japan are now starting to break through more in the West. Things like Final Fantasy is probably at one of its high points. Things like Octopath Traveler and Octopath Traveler 2 is done well. I know it's not Square, but Monster Hunter, I think it's broke through in the West in recent years.
Yeah, Capcom's biggest selling game of all time.
I think these sort of games that have always really done well in Japan, Persona 5, again, Sega, not Square.
Yeah.
But that broke through in such a big way. Square might just be looking at these and going, why don't we just double down on what we do well? And I think this could be part of it. Although it could also be what you said earlier, where we're trying to slim down, make ourselves a bit more lean to try and get us sold to Sony. That hasn't happened. So let's we need to actually start making some games.
Yeah, we need to get back on the game making front. But it'll be some time before we find out what their true purpose and their true need is, and I'm sure
we never will.
We'll learn about it in the future. In terms of things selling well, though, you mentioned about Japanese games. A lot of Western games are doing fantastically well too. One of which is Horizon Forbidden West, which has become one of the PlayStation 5's best-selling games, surprisingly. Announced this week as part of a PlayStation blog post about the 20th anniversary of Guerrilla Game Studios. Congratulations, Guerrilla, on your 20th anniversary. Horizon Forbidden West has now sold 8.4 million units as of the 16th of April 2023. This is counting all PS5, PS4 games. And interestingly enough, it does not factor in any downloads from the PlayStation Plus Extra Collection, because as a lot of you will probably remember, Forbidden West went onto PlayStation Plus claimable as of March, was it? I think month of March we got it for free. So it's interesting that fact was added in there to just drive home the message that no, this is proper units sold. And overall, the Horizon franchise has now sold over 32.7 million copies, which puts it on par almost with God of War Ragnarok and Spider-Man franchise, making it one of PlayStation's biggest hitters. Richie, we both love Horizon. All versions. I've actually got the Burning Shores DLC, which I'm waiting to get to after I've finished Jedi Survivor. I did that stupid thing where I bought it day one, installed it, and then I was like, oh, Jedi Survivor comes out in like 5 days, so I'm maybe not going to start it. So I used the conscious decision to not start it. However, it's on my radar. Apparently it tells Aloy's fantastic story. I am still surprised, though. I think because the first game was overshadowed by Breath of the Wild, and then the second game was overshadowed by Elden Ring, it got shafted on all the awards at the Game of the Year awards by the aforementioned titles. And it always seems like it's one of PlayStation's biggest games, but it always feels like it plays second string to other things, whether it's in the industry or on PlayStation itself. To hear that it's sold 32.7 million copies means this is an absolute breakout hit for a new IP over the last couple of years. And I'm all here for it because I love Horizon.
Bear in mind, according to a Forbes article I've just found, dated in February this year, the PS5 has only sold 32 million. So we can extrapolate to somewhere between 30 and 40 million PS5s in the wild now.
Mm-hmm.
So there's almost as many copies as Forbidden West as there is PlayStations out there. I know it's cross-platform, it's got PS4, but I'm not surprised, actually, because I think it is one of the tentpoles of Sony at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I do kind of agree that this isn't the Horizon for me, as much as I love it, isn't the top tier of Sony's catalog. It's that kind of half step below. Like in the top, you've got like things like Last of Us, you've got Ghost of Tsushima, you've got God of War, and Horizon sits Spider-Man. Yeah, I think Horizon sits just below that. It's still way above pretty much anything. As annoying as this is, as the host of an Xbox podcast, it's way above anything Xbox are doing at the moment.
Let's face it, Redfall's not got a scratch on Horizon or any of those other franchises that you mentioned. And that's kind of the problem over on that side of the coin.
Yeah.
In terms of just overall sales, though, there's no surprise PlayStation are doubling down on this franchise and giving us a multiplayer game and obviously a third entry in the full series, and possibly even more. If we've got the VR game, there's rumored to be a remaster of Zero Dawn. So it doesn't look like this is going away. And again, if you take risks on IP, it can pay dividends in the long run. And if you craft a gorgeous game with a great story and certain elements that people are looking for, it can flourish. And 32 million sold. So shout out to Guerrilla for pivoting away from, of course, Killzone and into something new. And from that we've got Horizon.
One of them things, because switching over to Horizon will have been a passion project that they've pitched to Sony. They've got the go-ahead. And like when it's come out, it's like, as much as like they must know we've got something special here. When Horizon Zero Dawn came out, they must have been like, please like it. Oh, everyone likes it. Oh wait, everyone really likes it. Yeah. It's like,
absolutely
good call.
You had me at Robot Dinosaurs. So moving on from Horizon to some of our final quick stories for the end of the week. GYLT, one of our nice little indie games up on the channel. We have a full playthrough from the Google Stadia days. I know we'll always mention it briefly here on the show. Stadia exclusive GYLT hits consoles and PC this July 6th. It was confirmed when Google Stadia announced its plans to close down. Developer Tequila Works announced that the Stadia exclusive horror game would go multi-platform at some point, and it seems to have done it just in time for Halloween later on this year. For anyone who's not played GYLT, it's basically your kind of entry point into the horror franchise. It's got a couple of puzzles to solve. It's got a nice little story involving Emily and what was the other girl's name, Richie? We always got them mixed up, the two girls, Emily and...
You always got them mixed up.
All right, I always got them mixed up. Sally and Emily. I could never tell which was the protagonist and which was the girl we were looking for. But it has a lot of like decent tropes that games like Resident Evil have. It's just, I think the art style maybe doesn't make it feel as scary. But we had a great time.
It's my first Resident Evil game. It's a horror game, but it's not too... Well, actually, it is. It's actually got... now I think about it, I was about to say, like, oh, yeah, this is a great horror game for kids to get into the genre, but it's like, it's got some pretty dark subject matter when it's like, it's going on about... covers themes of things like bullying. It's a beautiful game, to be honest. And I actually hope this is one that does get the PS Plus treatment or the Game Pass treatment, because I don't want this to come out and people just, after how much fun we had in it, to kind of look at and go...
It's just another indie game.
It's another game. Like maybe if it gets a price drop or something. It's like if it's one of them games where I think if it came to Game Pass or came to PS Plus, people might jump in and realize this. Actually, I think there is something special in this game.
Absolutely. I'd be tempted to play it again because I had a great time with it. And I'd be intrigued to know if the PS5 or Xbox version is like markedly improved because it's had another 2 years further in like porting development, I guess. So interesting stuff, but GYLT will be out in just a short while. Hopefully you can check that one out and have a bit of time. Bit of fun playing that one. A couple of final bits. Hollow Knight Silksong, the sequel to Hollow Knight, one of the fantastic Metroidvania side-scrollers from yesteryear. Sequel has been delayed again. They've not given a new date, but it's been pushed back into the first half of 2023. Team Cherry had planned to launch Silksong before July this year, but they came out with a spokesperson this week saying that it's still continuing, and the team are wanting to take as much time as we can to get the game as good as we can. And I dabbled. It's one of the few games I played on the Nintendo Switch, and I had a great time with it. The art style's gorgeous. The fighting's frenetic and fun. Anyone who's played kind of The Messenger or probably like Metroid, actually, to just go back to the Metroid games, it's very reminiscent of that. And sequels much anticipated. And as we always say, if you want to take more time, feel free. It's also set to arrive on Game Pass Day 1, Richie. So that's one for the channel to check out. Did you check out Silksong at all? Sorry, not Silksong. Hollow Knight.
Hollow Knight. No, it's always been on my radar because one of them games that always seems to come up in discussion as like, I think it's like the best exponent of the genre kind of stuff. It's like, but it's not. I don't think I own it unless it's on Game Pass, and I just never got round to playing it. So I have enjoyed kind of these kind of 2D Metroidvania side scroll stuff before. So I think I would enjoy it, but just never got round to it.
That's okay. Well, you won't have to wait too much longer before it's out there. And rounding things out for this week's show, I just wanted to drop a nice little cute one in there. I'm actually not a cute one in there before we get to that one. AstroBot. Richie, I'm a big fan of AstroBot. You're a big fan of AstroBot. We love the game. PlayStation 5 baked in. We were saying actually our friend who got a PlayStation 5 this past week, that was my default go-to. You play AstroBot. It's free. It's baked into the console. If you want to get a good feeling for what the PS5 is all about, even though it is obviously like a whimsical, fun 3D platformer, I had such a good time. And but I mean, usually when you get like a new console, you want to put it through its paces, and it's kind of
put it through its paces actually.
It's just so
That's
fun.
That's what this game is designed to do. I think this game is a showcase. It's a great game that's designed in a way that absolutely showcases what's great about the PS5.
And I can't wait for
a very tangible way. Each area in the game is based on an element of the PS5.
Yeah, well, you are inside a PlayStation 5, but for all that love, I can't wait for an actual full-on follow-up. But just wanted to drop it in there as a nice little fun one to end the show on. There is an AstroBot plush toy coming out. It makes them more adorable than ever. You can get your little cute AstroBot plush toy. However, it did make me remember that they announced from Nendoroid, I think, or a company that makes kind of tech and gadgets, is they're working on a AstroBot figurine that has actually like a digital face. So its eyes and stuff react exactly like they do in the game. And I kind of want one for my shelf, just to sit there in the back. Pre-orders are up now. It's about £50 to £70, give or take.
I always look at stuff like that and go, oh my God, that's amazing. See the price tag of like $65 and go, no.
Yeah, it's a bit of plastic with an LED screen attached to it. It should not be pushing £100. But yeah, I just wanted to add that one in there at the end. Richie, no doubt this week you're going to go and play some more Zelda Breath of the Wild. I'll be chipping away at Jedi Survivor. Not Breath of the Wild, sorry, Tears of the Kingdom. You might get them confused because they are taking place in the exact same world. But
I already have got them confused before.
Yeah, I've heard a few things where obviously the Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is basically like overlaid on top of the original game, and then they've added a whole underground, overground, womble and free. But I'll be playing Jedi Survivor. We'll be back this Wednesday, hopefully, to play some Fortnite in Amazon Luna. Don't expect us to be any good, by the way. We're two middle-aged men now who do not have the reflexes to keep up with all those tower-building teenagers out there in the world, or children, in fact. We're probably going to get our ass handed to us.
As much as I want to say, let's play without the building mechanics on, I think we have to play with them on.
Yeah, I don't want to be in that save the world mode, which was, I think, the first one with zombies.
You can play Battle Royale without the building mechanics now in Fortnite.
Oh, well, I actually thought it was good timing.
That's kind of the mode I would prefer, but I think for the stream, we have to have the building mechanics.
Yeah, we have to get to use them. So watch us struggle, join us, because I don't know how big the player base is on it, but or whether Amazon Luna has specific cloud versions, but but I'm not sure how much we can limit. Like the Switch version, you can play with just Switch players because the default controls like hampering you a little bit, I guess. But we'll figure that out. That's planned for Wednesday. I'm away next week for my brother's stag do. So a lot going on. Again, uncle, now I've got stag do, then I've got weddings. So I won't be on next week's shows, but you and Rob are going to hold down the fort. So whatever the streams that week and stuff, we'll figure that out later down the line. But you need to keep it locked to the channel so you're kept in the loop with all of that magic. We'll have some first looks, live streams and such up on the channel with a bunch of our other wonderful shows. Don't forget to go check out XPass and, of course, this very show, which you can get early if you join the channel, become a Helix Hero from as little as 99p. You get this show, Lunar Listening, a bunch of other stickers and badges next to your name, and much, much more. But that's been it for episode number 48 of Talking the PS. My name's been Chris.
I've been Richie.
We've been Helix Plays Games. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. And remember, play whatever makes you the happiest. See you next week. Enjoy your games, folks. Goodbye.
Bye.